Just as sure as I'm on YouTube making videos about iPhone 6 and effectively trolling the Samsung Galaxy crowd. And it's actually funny that I have to say Samsung Galaxy crowd simply because all of the other Android phones, which I honestly can't think of any off the top of my head besides the HTC One, are shit. When the Android market first got going, you had Verizon putting out a bunch of Android droids every motherfucking month. And the thing about it is, if you think about it right now, can anybody off the top of their head tell me anything about Verizon's latest Android phone? I honestly don't know if they have any droids available for anybody to buy. I honestly don't know about the specs of any droids. And I honestly really don't know if Verizon still even makes Droid phones. Samsung hit the ground running. They saw what Verizon was putting out from their Droid line, and Samsung one up Verizon, and they started making those Galaxy series phones. When they made the Galaxy 3, they basically cornered the market for themselves, and they said, yeah, fuck all these other Android phones. We are going to be at the top of the market. I saw this picture a little bit earlier about saying it was basically a way to troll iPhone users, saying, oh gee, what is this, 2012? Oh, you mean to tell me you're finally getting NFC payments and you're finally getting widgets and you're finally getting blah 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 blah. First of all, and it's funny, I don't mind showing pictures like this for the very simple reason that the people who are buying Samsung phones, for the most part, most of them are well-intentioned. The main problem is Apple doesn't do what it does cheaply. You can't simply go to most of these cell phone stores and get two fucking phones on a family plan or buy two, get one free. Every single time I've seen just about any Android phone, it's usually some kind of deal where if you buy one, you get one for your girlfriend, or if you buy two, you get one for your kid. And I see all the time, little kids walking around with Galaxy 3s, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is that kid walking around with a Galaxy 3? I mean, what, does that kid have a job or something? And then you think about it, and you're like, oh, their parents got it for them. How did their parents afford to get this little kid a Galaxy 3 or a Galaxy 4 or a Galaxy 5? And then you realize, oh, Verizon or AT&T or Singular or whatever it is, Metro PCS, whatever, they had a sale, and they're giving these pieces of shit away, and they're considering that a sale simply because that phone came with a contract. So it's easy for the Android market to sell more phones than iOS, iPhone. It's easy for them to sell more phones because they're giving half of them away so long as you buy two. It's like saying, oh yeah, well, I bought two DVDs and got one free, so that means we're selling a record number of DVDs. It's just ridiculous. Apple doesn't make any fucking deals. When Apple puts their shit out, either you can afford it or you can't. Period. It's like a Mercedes S-Class. It's like a BMW 7. Either you can pay $100,000 or you can't. And if you can't, well, that's your problem. You can go over to Toyota, you can go to Honda or something, and you can get one of those new Acura TLXs. Because you ain't getting this. This is a S-Class, and we aren't lowering the price. If you can't pay it, then that's what you can't have. Period. That's it. Go across the street to T-Mobile, that shitty-ass carrier. But I digress. Simply put, near-field communications is insecure. Now, granted, Apple has probably worked their security features in order to, ensure that nobody will be able to hack their software using NFC. And I'm pretty sure you'll even hear about those hacking contests where they, try to pay people to try to hack it. But Apple, one thing I can respect about them is that they've done their best to not allow software or firmware to run on their devices that can be hacked. Jailbreaking your iPod or iPhone is the only way you can get that stuff on there, and it voids the warranty. Apple demands that they have full control over that technology. And even when, Congress has passed laws that says, okay, after a certain amount of time you can unlock or jailbreak your device or whatever, Apple still doesn't allow certain softwares and firmwares to run on their devices. Flash, for instance. For a long time, I'd always wanted to have Flash in a mobile device. Later on, I got the HP touchpads when they had that fire sale and they were getting rid of HP touchpads, which used to be like $400, and they marked it down to $100. Flash, number one, uses more battery power than the typical HTML5 web browsers that you're seeing. Number two, Flash is insecure. One thing you may notice is when you use a computer, sometimes you get these malwares that download themselves right into your computer after you accidentally push a button thinking that you were getting a hard drive scan. Flash is insecure. I also don't have to tell any technological expert that near-field communications isn't completely secure. Some of you may have been paying attention to the new advents in technology where we have autonomous cars. One of the problems with autonomous cars is they get the majority of their information from GPS or near-field communications with other vehicles, because ultimately, some people are saying we're going to have cars that know where each other are, and we're going to have cars that can talk to each other. Problem is, a good hacker could seriously fuck you up. They could, just for kicks, slam your car into a wall at 80 miles per hour, or they could just unlock the shit and steal it. Think about this. Iran was able to hack a US drone by tricking it into thinking that it was actually over America and telling it to land in their backyard. Simply put, without going into all of those examples, the simple fact of the matter is Apple does not like to have anything in their software that can be hacked. Period. For a very long time, many people believed that Apple didn't have viruses at all. They only believed Windows did. However, it's not that Windows had viruses and was insecure. The problem was Windows was so big, it had to run on multiple platforms. It had to run on HP computers, Compaq computers, Sony computers, Packard Bell computers, whatever. Apple had such a close tie between its operating system and its hardware that it was almost impossible to hack into. I'm not saying it was impossible, because even I have a video called How to Hack Your Mac and how to break into Macintosh OS X computers without a password. I have that video. I made that video showing people how to do it. So it's not impossible to hack one of their systems. It's just very difficult simply because their hardware and their software are so closely tied. Every time you get an update direct from Apple, Apple already knows everything about all of the components that are inside your device. The same is not true when you're talking about a PC or even an Android phone. Different phones have different components. But with Apple, they know exactly what an iPhone 6 is. They know exactly what an iPhone 5 is. There's no surprises for them. They know exactly how to fix it. In a single update, they know what they're doing. I've got ridiculous amounts of money. I've got $500 or more every single month coming in from this YouTube. All this trolling, all these videos that I'm making that the fanboys of Android hate, guess what? Regardless how you feel about it, it's still making money. The simple fact is, Apple allows me to do what I do with iMovie, and they allow me to do it so well that I'm willing to keep coming back. Right now, my contract with AT&T is over. Right now, I can go and buy any phone I want, and there's companies who are willing to pay, anywhere up to $250 or more, depending upon what iPhone 5 model you have. I can go anywhere I want. I could go to an Apple store right now. I could go to an Android store right now. I could buy a new phone. I could wait and buy that Galaxy Gear Edge, the Galaxy Note Edge, or I could buy a Galaxy 5 waterproof if I wanted. The simple fact of the matter is, I demand the best. And as far as I've seen, Galaxy isn't the best. Samsung likes to one-up Apple with everything they do. They wait and see what Apple does, and then they do their own thing. If Apple gives you an iPad that has one camera in it, Samsung Galaxy Tab gives you two cameras. Unfortunately, while they were giving you those two cameras, they weren't smart enough to come up with a good firmware to make it so that everybody knew exactly how to use it and the best, most efficient way to use it. What did Apple do? When they put dual cameras in their devices, they called it FaceTime. Everybody knew what FaceTime was. everybody started referring to video conferencing as FaceTime. It became a brand name simply because when Apple did it, they advertised it better, and they had a software that was so good that no matter which iPhone or iPod or iPad that you had, FaceTime was gonna work. Not so with the Androids. Samsung Galaxy couldn't easily commute with the older phones that had the dual cameras in it. So my thing is, if Samsung's going to do what they do, why don't they make it coherent? But the problem is, how can you make what you're doing coherent if you're busy copying somebody else? Yes, I can criticize Apple because I am upset that it took so long to make big screen phones. I believe that the iPhone 4 should have had a 4-inch screen, and I believe the iPhone 5 should have had either a 4.8 or 4.7, or it should have had a 5-inch screen. After 5 inches, there's nobody who wants anything bigger than 5 inches for the very simple fact that it becomes almost impossible to carry around. So what did Apple do? They waited and they decided that when they made this new big screen iPhone that they were going to go get some exotic crystal, sapphire crystal, and they were going to make their screens. Meanwhile, go around and take a look at some of the Galaxy owners' phones and you can see the cracked edges on their phones. You can see the cracked screens on their phones, and you can see all of the stress fractures in the plastic backs of their devices. One of my friends had a Galaxy S2, and I actually liked the phone because it had a metal back, similar to Apple obviously, and because it had a pretty decent glass screen. What I didn't like was the fact that you have to use micro SD cards. Apple's NAND flash is so much better and so much more stable and so much more reliable than those micro SD cards that I figure that whatever they have you pay for the device is actually worth it. NAND flash is extremely good, especially when you do what I do in recording videos and, using the camera a lot. I love NAND flash. If I wanted NAND flash, I'd have to go to HTC because Samsung makes their phones cheaper by not using NAND flash. They have you go out and spend $89 to $120 for a 128 gigabyte chip. Meanwhile, my iPhone 6 is going to have 128 gigabytes, and it's going to be, It's going to be $500. I also love Apple's cloud service. Every single morning around 6 o'clock, my phone backs its entire self up to the cloud. I only use the 5 gigabytes because I only back up the major documents and the major settings. I do not back up pictures or video. So this way, if anything ever did happen to my phone, I could instantly re-download the entire phone into whatever iPhone model I have, whether it's the 4S 64 gigabyte that I have, or whether it's a brand new iPhone 6. I will concede that the big screens on the Samsung phones are the major reason why I would ever see buying one. I actually purchased a Galaxy 3 as a gift for someone in my family for the very simple reason that their eyes weren't good enough to actually use an iPhone since the screen was too small. However, all that's over now. iPhone 6 is out with a 5.5-inch screen. So if you can't see too well, now you got a really big screen and you've got an easy-to-use operating system, which is one of the main reasons I do not like Android. Samsung could never get away with copying the iOS system, not wholesale anyway. And that's the reason why they've got all these lawsuits going back and forth, because they've, for the most part, copied every single thing they could copy from Apple, especially the pinch to zoom, which when Apple did it, it just works so much better. Meanwhile, when you were using Android phones years ago, you had to push those silly magnifying glass buttons. How disgusting. Please, please don't get me started on these stupid smartwatches. I really think all smartwatches are stupid, and I think you'd have to be an incredible badge whore taking in American welfare checks to bother wasting any of your money or anybody else's money on one. Talking into your fucking wristwatch, I mean, come on, that's just stupid. Who do you think you are, Dick Tracy? Samsung curves one edge, just one edge, of the phone and they think that they've done something. The Apple iWatch and the iPhone 6 are going to succeed where Samsung failed simply because Apple's smarter. Though the iPhone 6 is going to destroy the iPad mini LTE sales, it's going to be nothing but successful.